Welcome to Facing the Challenge, What to Do About Whining. I am Raelene Ostberg and presenting this through Thriving Together, LLC. I believe that we are more together when we gather and share ideas and strategies, and we are going to figure out together what to do about whining. So when I started this parenting journey, I thought my child was going to be like this, happy, smiley. And then when I actually had my own child, she was more like this. She didn't smile for 2 months. And then here she is 10, 11 months old, and this is my best joke. And she was so serious. This is the way that she was wired from the beginning. So what I expected and what I was hoping for did not turn out to be what happened. I'm wondering if any of you who are childcare providers and parents experience something similar. Maybe you thought it would be fun to work with kids. You would do activities and they'd be like, thank you. And they would love the activities. You would read to babies. Those toddlers would be amazing and fun. You would read books and kids would listen. How many of you have found maybe actually is a little bit like this? 5-year-olds saying, you're not the boss of me. 3-year-olds whining, dawdling. You do great activities, and then they complain about the activities. You serve great food, and those little toddlers are like, I wanted a different color bowl. And all of a sudden, your life is so much more frustrating than you imagined it would be. And then, those 3 to 5-year-olds start whining. And all of a sudden, it's like, it's like to me, it's like chalk on a chalkboard where it's like squeak, and I just can't be calm. I get so frustrated when the whining continues. I have actually had this feeling like, stop whining! And it didn't work. It wasn't helpful. So thankfully, I have been able to collect strategies over the years that work to help kids stop whining. And I'm going to share those with you. And I know you've also found strategies. So I'm going to give you space to share those with each other. So what are we going to do? We're going to look briefly at why. And then we're going to look at the top 5 strategies to prevent whining. And then we're going to look at, well, what do you do when it still occurs? Because you can't stop it altogether. So what are the top strategies to address it when it occurs that will reduce it in the future? And then we'll actually apply those to some scenarios that you're dealing with. So it'll be exciting, it'll be fun, and we will learn a lot together. Some of the insight you've had to why is frustration or to get attention, or they're tired and they're overwhelmed. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to present a little bit about why else children might be whining. So here's some of the fuel. So the match is like a little kid. They walk around their match. If stuff starts to happen just right, that's where we have the whining. So all of a sudden it's like, what? They're tired, you mentioned that, hungry or hangry, as we say. They might have a medical issue. So have you ever had a child who's extra whiny and then it turns out they have an ear infection or something else going on? Or it might be development. Children naturally start whining more at 3, 4, 5 years old. And then temperament. Some kids are just overwhelmed easier, more intense. They express feelings more intensely, are more likely to whine. It's just the way they're wired. Or it might be things to do with the environment. Another reason might be stress. So this is the thing. They're calm, cool, relaxed. All of us maybe start the day this way, but then as stuff starts to build up, we might start to get agitated, anxious, annoyed, or whiny. And kids are the same way. And if we don't do something to bring that stress back down, that's when they get where they slam doors, they tantrum, they cry, they shut down, they hit, something like that. So what we're looking at tonight is the why, the agitated, anxious, annoyed, whiny, because that is going to be an indication that they might be under stress. And that is going to help tell us what to do about it. Okay? So that's stress. Agitated, anxious, whiny, stress hormone is elevated in the body. Another reason, self-control fatigue. So have you ever felt like you hold it together, you're doing really good, and then all of a sudden you're just like, the child might lose it, you might lose it. You're just tired. You've had too much. And this is another reason that kids might start whining. How about disequilibrium? Have you ever heard of this? Kids generally could be in a stage of equilibrium where they're just cooperative, they're calm, they're flexible, they're not whining very much. And then all of a sudden they hit a certain developmental stage and they get into disequilibrium. How do you know if this is why it is? Well, all of a sudden they were happy, things were fine, and now they're struggling. They're breaking down about little things. They're whining more. They start to feel uneasy about themselves and the world, and so all of a sudden they start to feel more anxious. And so there comes the whining. They're less confident, more stressed. So it's a stage of disequilibrium. Thankfully, they do go out of the stage and go back to their old loving self eventually. We're going to help them do it sooner. So now what we're going to do, thinking about that then, if they're doing it because they're stressed, they're tired, they need attention, they're overwhelmed, medical issue, etc., let's apply it. So think about, what does the child need to learn? And now I'm going to give you a couple minutes to type those in. Think about that child who's like, what do they need to learn to stop whining? Self-control. What else? I'm going to wait and give you guys a chance to think about this because it's going to give us a key to what we can do about it. Think about self-control. What skill helps you have self-control? What have you learned that helps you regulate yourself? Why don't you walk around whining all the time? What have you learned to breathe? That's a great one. So what does the child need to learn? It's going to be part of the key to this. So then the question becomes, how do you prevent whining? So think about in your environment. We're going to go back to the application here. Think about in your environment, how do you prevent whining? Think about the day that kids just are not whining. What's happening? What are you doing that's reducing whining? One of the things I love about this online environment is we can take time to learn from each other. Yes, great insight. So help get their basic needs met. Get them sleep, get them food. Model. Yes, routine. Setting up routines has been proven to result in less challenging behaviors. Step away from the situation. Yes, teach them how to do that. Great insight, you guys. Thank you. So I'm going to share some additional strategies for preventing whining. So the first one is to build in connection time. Seems obvious, right? But you might have noticed, as you said, when you're doing diapers or you're really busy, they feel disconnected. So they act out to get attention. Sometimes they need that extra hug or that extra reassurance that you're there. So if you build in connection time into everyday moments like mealtime or diaper changes or something like that, then they're less likely to whine. Second one, lower their stress. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but if they're under stress, they're more likely to whine. So if you can build in stress reducing techniques, you will have less whining. Okay. Give the child a sense of control. Remember that one reason they whine is because they feel self-control fatigue. They've just held it in too long. Now they're losing it. So one way to do it is to give them choices. I know you tried doing this, but the more you can do it, the better. Even easy things like, yes, you need to come to the table for a snack, but you can hop to the table or walk backwards to the table. Then they have a perceived choice. In the Challenging Behavior series, we get really into all different scenarios where you can offer choices. But just know that the more choices you can offer, the more you will prevent whining. Number 4, practice and teach skills. Now, what skills am I talking about? We talked about what they need to learn, but let me tell you something they really need to learn too. It's, what does whining even mean? We know it's easy for us to identify whining, but I can tell you that my husband has a very small tolerance and thinks a lot of things are whining that I don't think are whining. So you actually work with them to teach them what is whining and why would we want to avoid it. So I have an 8-year-old come up and say, Raelene, I want a snack. Ah, oh, that loud, high-pitched voice you're using, it's really hard for me to hear you. Please use your deep voice. And then he goes, can I have a snack, please? Yes, now I can hear you. So you actually teach them. So that's an idea of a prompt in the moment, too, what I just gave you. But there's ways that you can teach by modeling and demonstrating. And since kids like to learn, one step removed, I have a great way. Are you ready for this? You know I love my puppets. Ha! This is how I teach kids whine. So instead of saying at circle time or something like that, you know that high pitched voice that you use that's whiny? Oh, that's really hard to hear. We need to use our deep voice, and then people can understand you and they're more likely to listen to you. When you whine, it makes me want to say no. So you can teach them that with your words. But if you show them, you might do something like you're sitting at circle, and all of a sudden, Bunny's getting really excited and goes, I want to turn, I want to say. And you go, oh, Bunny, that's really whiny. Did you guys hear him whining? And they go, yeah, because you've taught him about it, right? What can Bunny do so he's not whining? Use your deep voice so I can hear you, Bunny. I would like a turn, please. Okay, should we give Bunny a turn? And there's the kids. Their eyes are open, they're excited, they're interested, and they're learning about whining. So you can teach them to recognize whining. What does it sound like? When is it? Are you talking with your normal voice where I can understand you? And then when does it get a little higher? And then when does it get so high that you're really alienating people? You're making them not want to listen. So does that click for you guys that that would be something, some ways that you could prevent whining? I would like to go to this discussion. So I've given you 5 tips for addressing whining, and then we're going to look at what happens when whining occurs. I love that, Deborah. Give him an extra big hug. Thanks, Kim, for the positive comment. It keeps me going, all the comments I get from you guys. And don't worry, I am giving you a tip sheet at the end of your evaluation of tonight's seminar that you can download right away so that you will be able to have these all contained in one document. I'll give it to you at the end. So that idea of giving them a hug. Yeah, okay, great. Using a puppet. Yes, try to see what the problem is. What's going on behind it? You got it, Renee. So let's look a little bit more at how to do that. So what I want to do now, we're going to go back to our application. What I want you to do is tell me, what can you do? I'm going to type it again, when whining occurs. So even if you do the strategies that we've all said, even if you do all those strategies and the ones I added, there's still going to be times when they're stressed out or something and they whine. So everybody type in all the ideas you can think of that you've heard of, that other people have said, that you've thought of or read. What are all the things you can do when whining occurs? Have them take deep breaths and then try again. That's a good idea because if you calm them down, they're less likely to whine. Taking deep breaths helps them calm. I love that idea. Ask them what's wrong. Tell them right away to ask for help. That's great. That's great. Try to figure out what's making them upset. Yes. What's going on behind it? Oh, ask them to find their nice voice. Now, as long as you've taught them what nice voice means, they'll get that, right? Inside voices. So let me ask you, if you say use your inside voice, what does that mean? You've modeled it, right? You've showed them what an inside voice is. Because that role is going to be different depending on who they're with. Grandma's going to have a different idea. Parents are going to have a different idea. So you remain calm. Help the little one problem solve. Nicely tell them you can't understand their whining. Yes. Ask them what's wrong. Get them a cup of water, which helps them calm down. These are wonderful ideas. Thank you. I'm going to add a couple more, and then we're going to apply it to a couple scenarios, and then we'll be done for tonight. Thank you so much for staying with me, everybody. So here we go. I'm going back to our presentation screen. So what can you do when whining occurs? So number one, which you guys have already started to allude to, address the why behind the behavior. What is going on? Number two, label their feelings. I know I've said this before, but the reality is if they have stress going through their body and they're feeling stressed out and that's why they're whining, when you label their feeling, it brings that stress down. So speak to their world. Oh, you look really upset. You don't want her to take that toy from you. You're sad. like that. And then the stress hormone starts going down in their body. Remember when you're anxious, agitated, whiny? When they're whiny, if you label their feelings and really zero in on what it is they're going through, that's when that stress hormone comes down where they can use their calm voice. So first, figure out what's going on behind it, and then label what's going on. This is the reality. Some people have stress response, they fight. Some people shut down. They all need something different. Some people lash out and run away. But some people, they found in the research, actually need to gather in. They actually, when they whine, they cling, they complain, and they request your help. Often that's their stress response. So what's going to help when they're having a stress response, if that is the why behind it, is going to be giving them attention, snuggling them in, giving them massage or touch, even if it's just like a rub on the cheeks or a rub on their back, you might see the whining disappear. It might be giving them a big hug, like some of you said, or holding them. It's to be close to you. Some don't want to be touched when they're really stressed out, so you have to read their cues, but often when they're whining, they want to be heard. They want you to validate them. So that's when this labeling their feelings even works better. So you tune in, you say something like, oh, you didn't like that they weren't playing with you. That made you feel sad. I feel sad when my friends don't play too. Do you see how I'm just having that gut response of like, I'm here for you. I get you. That's tough. Did you notice what I didn't do? I didn't add a but at the end of it. Why didn't I add a but on the end of it? I'll tell you why. Imagine you're talking to your friend and you're saying, you know what? I'm so stressed out. My child is acting a certain way. It's driving me crazy. I don't even know what to do about it. And they go, well, yeah, but they're only 3. They're only 2. So of course they're going to act that way. How would you feel in that moment? It's like, you don't need a yes, but you just need to be validated. You need to be heard, right? So it gets in the way of the relationship if we try and jump in and lecture. And then how about ignoring? Nobody said ignoring tonight, but that comes up very often in these. So why not ignore? Well, it can get in the way of a relationship if I'm talking to you because I'm really upset and I say, look, my child's having this problem. And you just turn and ignore me. How do I feel about you? Do I want to work with you? Do I feel positive about our relationship? No. But sometimes ignoring does come in. When would you ignore whining? It's when they need you to ignore them. They might need space. Maybe they're not able to act very well. And you can say something you ignore with positivity, so to speak. So instead of just, I'm not listening to you when you whine, which is going to get in the way of your relationship, you say something like, wow, you sound really mad. You sound like you need a break. I'm going to give you a break and I'll check on you in a little bit. Now this would be with 3 and older because they can understand me, right? But see this first picture that's up on the top left? It's like they might need to be ignored. They might be shutting down. They might just need quiet. So in that case, you're going to give them that space too. So there is a time to ignore. We don't have to always validate, but first try validating, see how it works. And then if it's not working, you can step away. And number 3. So number 1, figure out the why and address the why. Number 2, provide that label for what they're feeling and what they're going through and just be there for them. Empathize for real. And then number 3, this is the big one that we always want to go to once they've calmed down and they feel like we understand them, provide a verbal prompt. So here's this little girl. He took my toy. First, I'm going to validate, right? Oh, he took your toy. Oh, that's such a bummer. I'm sorry he took your toy. You feel sad, don't you? Just wait, take a deep breath, watch, and then say, sounds like, can I have a turn? Or help, please. Or I need a hug, depending on what you think the child might be trying to say. So instead of saying something like use your words, what does use your words mean anyway? So instead of saying use your words, you actually give them the words. This has worked for me. I'm not saying it works every time. Try it and see where it works for you. So it might be like, let's say this boy is He's starting to work on his work, and you can feel him getting more and more tense. And he starts to go, I don't like this, it's not working. You might do a verbal prompt like, oh, sounds like you might need a break. So it's a prompt to what it is you think that they're needing. All right, here we go. Are you ready for the real life application? Every seminar you attend of mine, I want you to walk away with a real life. What does this look like? So let's go. Let's apply it. So you're getting ready to clean up, and the child says, I don't want to clean up. What would you do to address the whining when it comes to cleaning up? I don't want to clean up. No, you can't make me. So making it fun, making a game out of it really helps prevent the whining to begin with. But now he's whining. So if he's like, I don't want to clean up, you're going to go, oh, come on, let's make it fun right away. Or might it be helpful to relate to him first? Oh, somebody said, I know you don't want to clean up, but the big but. Oh no. Because what you've just done is then you start invalidating them, and then it doesn't work. The labeling doesn't work if you say but. It just makes kids mad, or adults mad for that matter, and frustrated. The trick is to first just label their feelings, experience their experience. So in this case, I might say something like, oh, it's really hard for you, isn't it? I am making you stop playing, and you were really into playing with the blocks today. I'm sorry, I know that's frustrating for you when we have to stop playing. And you don't add a but. They know, but we need to go to snack, but it's time to go outside, but it's time for nap. They know. You don't have to tell them that. But you could say something like, after you take a deep breath, you could say something like, well, first we're going to eat snack, and then we're going to get to go out and play. Or one of those other great challenging behavior strategies we talk about in the challenging behavior series. What you want to do is really just feel their feelings, not try and problem solve them out of it, make them not feel that way, but really help them. The second thing, playing a game is wonderful, and singing the cleanup song is wonderful. But once the child has started whining, once they're frustrated, once they're like, then it's kind of not as nice to do that right away. So first label their feelings and then jump. I'll tell you why. Because imagine you talk to me, I'm so frustrated. I'm just sick of my husband doing this to me. And I say, oh, well, let's go have a glass of wine and have some fun. You might be like, okay, and then go have a glass of wine and have fun, but you don't feel connected to me because I didn't hear you. I didn't understand how you were feeling. So the idea is if you first kind of validate how they're feeling, then you can jump to some of those other strategies. Let's do one more scenario, and then I'm going to let you go. So you serve them food at lunch. I don't like this. I don't like this kind. How frustrating is that? You've gotten the snack already. They sit down for a snack, and now they're like, I don't want to eat the snack. So what can you do? What might you say or do in that moment they're complaining about their food? So exciting to learn together. So you're jumping to strategies to get them out of the whining. So if a child's whining and their stress is up and they're not happy about the fact that they got this food, and you say, you need to take one bite and try it, I bet you might be entering battle land. You might be wrong. You might have found great times with a strategy, but I've seen many challenges around mealtime when we do the one bite rule. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying if they're whining and they're already feeling like I don't want to eat this, they might have self-control fatigue. They might be stressed out. They might be having a medical issue. So jumping in and trying to force them to do it or negotiate to get them to do it, bribe them to do it, is not going to be the most effective strategy. So you go back to why are they doing it? What's going on? Is it that they're not hungry enough? Is it that they weren't offered a choice? Is it that they're tired? What is going on? And then you'll be able to find the strategy that's going to match. You can try and get them to try a bite, but if you jump in and you label their feelings, oh, you don't like that food. You're not in the mood to eat that food right now. I'm sorry you don't like that food. And leave it there. Here's one more idea. So imagine an 8-year-old comes up and they're like, he's teasing me. What can you do? He's teasing me. Well, what I suggest in scenarios like this, and you could do this with any of the ones we've talked about, is you can say something like, oh no, what can you do? With 3 and older. Oh no, what can you do? And then wait, watch, and listen. Very often they can come up with their own solution. It even works well, of course, paired with labeling their feelings. But you can start to give the responsibility to the child to work it out. So I remember my 8-year-old running up and saying, "He's chasing me. I don't like it." And I, "What can you do? That's a bummer. You don't want him chasing you. What can you do?" She thought of a solution and ran off and did it. So it can help as they get older too. So we're going to go to our conclusion. You don't like this. Are you feeling hungry? Let's try one little bite. I want to negotiate. This is just me. You guys can choose what strategies work for you. But if I have a child that's not happy with what I've served, I don't want to give it a lot of attention. I just don't. So I validate their feelings. Think about a choice I might offer next time, but I'm not going to try and negotiate with them. I'm not going to try and ride them out of their feelings. They can just not like the food. It's their choice. They're human. Imagine if you came to my house for dinner and or you came over to have a glass of wine with me, and I was like, "Oh, I made this food for you. I want you to eat it," and it was something that you really didn't like. Do you want me to force you to take a bite? Do you want me to argue with you? Do you want me to try and talk you out of your feelings? Probably not. You probably just don't want to eat it. So it's just an idea to think about. Sometimes with whining, we don't have to solve the problem. We can just label their feelings, prompt them to what we might need them to say, and move on. So in my case, I told my kids, eat what you want to eat, don't eat what you don't want to eat, but don't complain at the table. So that was the rule. They got used to that rule over time, and they knew, just don't eat it. That was their choice. I could label their feelings, "Oh, I'm sorry you don't like the food," but the rule is you don't complain at the table. Did you hear my butt? Ah, it's so hard not to do the butt. Thank you so much. I really believe 100% that we are more together. And when those little kids turn in from those beautiful little babies that are so wonderful and so loving, and then they start whining, complaining, saying, "You're not the boss of me. Why do I need to do that?" When they start acting like that, just know what you do and how you support them is literally setting the trajectory for their future success. When they graduate from high school, and they will, because you set the strong base. They're going to have the skills they need to do well. And when kids have the skills, they stop whining. I want to leave you with this quote. It takes a big heart to shape little minds. Thank you for taking the time out of your world. You're not watching TV, you're with me learning how to support your children best. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I truly believe, as the business is called, we are thriving together. We got this.